SACP in Gauteng will today picket at the country's national Treasury offices. Now this as part of its financial sector campaign, as well as the fight against corporate capture of the state, corruption and parasitic looting of the state. SACP says the picket will also defend the country against being reduced to a neo-colonial playground of capitalist interests. Well, our reporter Natasha Puri joins us live from Pretoria. A very good morning to Natasha. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you just paint us a picture of what's happening outside the National Treasury offices this morning?
Very good morning to you, Gary, and to the viewers at home. Indeed, scores of SACP members have actually congregated here outside the National Treasury office in Pretoria to picket, as you have indicated, amongst its financial sector campaign to picket against corporate capture, corruption and looting of the state. And as you can actually see behind me, there's actually a banner. The marchers and supporters have actually come in. We expect more to actually come in. We've spoken to people all the way from Mpumalanga saying that they've come to support today's campaign. This is the campaign that's organized by the SACP in Gauteng. They've just actually clarified and told us that they will not be marching. This is just a picket to make a statement. Hence, there will be no memorandum to actually, hand over to Treasury. We do know that the finance minister has actually made his trip, his investor roadshow overseas. And we do know that the SACP has come out recently very strongly and just asking President Jacob Zuma to step down. We've seen a series of protests and marches amongst over the weeks calling for President Jacob Zuma to step down. We're actually joined by the General Secretary of the SACP in Gauteng, Jacob Mababolo, who is somewhat held up by interviews, but here he is right now. Thank you so much for joining us at AN7. Can you just highlight some of the reasons you guys are picketing outside Treasury offices?
Well, we are here as the South African Communist Party, as you can see, with our posters to send a clear message to Treasury. One, that we concerned very deeply about what we define as the Gupta dynasty that is interfering with our sovereignty. The Public Protector report on state of corporate capture released in November 2016 indicates that there are deep, serious matters that need to be investigated, that goes to the root of corporate capture of our financial institutions, of our country, of our state-owned enterprises. And we have identified Treasury as a very important institution that must safeguard our governance, that must safeguard our institutions, that must make sure that our financial systems and the regulatory framework that deal with banks and the core of our financial systems, that those are protected. We also want to make sure that the Post Bank is created to distribute and defend the social security network, the pension of the old, Abu Gogo who depend on these social grants, child-headed households, people with disability, the most vulnerable who benefit from social grants. So we want to make sure that it never happens in the history of our country that those vulnerable people, the most poorest of the poor in our communities who depend on social grants, are ever put in a panic. We don't want that it ever happen again, that people are not sure, will we get our social grants or not? So today here we're doing the countdown towards April 2018, as per the decision of the Constitutional Court, that the CPS contract is coming to an end. And when it comes to an end, there must not be doubt about will people get their social grants. We see now that right in the Department of Social Development and SASA, there are fights constitutional. They're taking each other to courts at the most senior level. When and how are they going to prepare for the transfer of payment of social grants to an alternative, and preferably for us, a Post Bank as a state bank? So these are amongst the issues that we are highlighting, and this is part of our campaign to make sure that we also challenge the oligopoly, the few commercial banks that are dominating the financial sector space. So we are also raising this issue of the transformation of the financial sector by making sure that a proper, efficient Post Bank is created. But we must also say, we don't want any so-called equity partners around the Post Bank. We are aware that the Gupta dynasty is trying to create a commercial bank We are also here to make sure that themselves, all the commercial banks, no one must touch the pension funds, because we know they also make illegal deductions. So we're also here to defend the fact that our financial institute, the post banks, want to set up, we don't want any private financial interests around it. So these are amongst the issues that we'll be picketing about the whole of today here at Treasury.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but we will talk to you later on. That was the General Secretary, of the SACP in Gauteng, Jacob Mamula, just speaking very strongly, against corporate capture, against corruption and looting of the state right there. He's actually rushing off to start with the program, but we will keep you updated with the latest developments in regards to the story, Gail.
Live from Pretoria, where the SACP is having a peaceful picket outside the National Treasury offices.